In this video, I'm going to teach you the winning mindset you must have to succeed as a coach, especially when it comes to what you invest your time and energy in. Now, we're all putting our time and energy somewhere, but the reality is most of us are not getting the results that we want. So this conversation is a little bit of a tough love, cold, hard look at why that is. Now, this is one of the middle modules of the paid Foundations of Marketing for Coaches program, which is a $2,500 ticket. And it was addressing the frustrations that some of the people were having over the results that they weren't getting. So enjoy this small chunk of the paid training, but I want you to listen from the perspective of your life in business. See what concepts can be applied to where you are right now. So hopefully this video can help you move the needle in a significant way. And if you like this kind of video where I pull chunks out of the longer paid programs, then drop a comment below so I can share more of them with you. This statement right here, the reality is most people in life, not just in this industry, but most people in life are expecting returns from investments they haven't made, or expecting returns on investments that don't have the ability, the capacity. Not even in the wildest dreams does this investment have the potential to give the return that you're secretly hoping or wishing for. And yet people don't change their investments. Now, I think this is twofold. Number one, whatever you are investing in time, energy, and money will determine the return, and it should match your expectations. So in other words, if you're only working on your business a few hours a week, don't expect coaching clients. Just don't do it. They're probably not coming. Now, there's nothing wrong with adjusting your expectations. This, I think, is one of the biggest problems that we have in our society, is that we are fed this idea that if you adjust your goals, that means you're quitting, and quitting is bad. Now, personally, I believe, and I've learned over the course of my journey in this entrepreneurial world, that the most successful people not only are quitters, but they are master quitters. Master quitters. So this idea that winners never quit and quitters never win is an elementary, amateurish idea, and it's bullshit. We need to quit all the time. We need to discern what to quit. We need to decide what to quit. And you know what? There's empowerment in quitting. When you quit something because you're no longer willing to experience the frustrations of that thing, or you're no longer willing to delay your dreams, or you're no longer willing to not show up for the people that need you to show up, that kind of quitting is empowered. That kind of quitting feels good. That kind of quitting is actually exciting. It gives you an energy of control. Now, the kind of quitting based on fear doesn't. So as with so many things in this particular industry and in our human experience, you can't take a label and inherently say that label is good or bad. We have to say, why is this person quitting? And sometimes quitting is quote unquote bad, and sometimes it's great. Now, I would say the way our ego receives the idea of being a quitter, it causes us to keep doing things we should not keep doing. And it causes us to not do things that we should keep doing. And it causes us to stay in this perpetual story of disempowered victimhood. I can't because. So we win the little micro battles, but we lose the macro war. We win the little micro situations of staying focused and don't quit and all this other crap that the programming tells us, and we miss out on our vision. We don't achieve our purpose. We don't actually put into play our mission because our ego has all these little micro battles that it's trying to win. And when you take a look at these little micro battles that the ego is trying to win from a macro perspective, from your heart's perspective, from your vision statements, most of those battles mean nothing, but they check little tiny boxes. They give us the experience of accomplishment. They make us feel like we're making progress because we can check off the little tiny boxes. In the grand scheme of things, they just keep us stuck. So I want you to take a look at the investments that you're making, time, energy, and money, according to the expectations that you have. And if they don't match, one must change, period. Now, some of you have circumstances in your life right now, whether it's the health status of somebody in your family or the age of your children or any other significant and valuable circumstance you have in your life that you're not interested in changing. Some of those circumstances will determine your level of investment. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, right now I've got a sick father. And right now, I don't want to be putting all this time and energy to build something, especially just because I made a promise to myself 2 years ago. Well, right now, I need to be present with my family. I need to be present with myself. I need to be present with my father. Now, I'm also not saying that anybody who has a sick parent necessarily needs to throw everything off the table. These are all individual choices that you have to make, but you got to make them according to your values. See, one of the challenges is that we make all these decisions based on rules that aren't even ours. The reason that we make decisions based on rules that aren't even ours is because we don't know ourselves enough to make the rules that match us and make the rules that match our lives. So if we don't know self, how can we create boundaries that will preserve self? Or how can we create lanes that will get us to the goals that our self has when we don't know ourself? We're looking at our lives, we're looking at our human experience, we're looking at the world through a not version of ourselves. This is not even our real self that we're trying to make all these decisions through, looking at lenses through a perspective that's not us, a perspective that was put on by us, or a perspective that we created to try to get approval from somebody else because we're so scared that they won't approve of the real us, so we don't let them see the real us, which means we don't ever see the real us. How the hell can we create rules that will make the real us happy, that will make the real us experience what we want on this planet when we don't even know the real us? So in order for us to connect to our goals, to connect to our business, to actually implement some of the things that we want to implement, we need to connect to self first. We need to have stability in ourselves. And then the visibility won't scare us. Because when we are connected inside of visibility, when we have internal connection inside the experience of being visible, then people's judgments and their feedback and their sounds that their mouth makes, or the thoughts that their head has that you'll never have access to anyway, won't pierce this connection. I was going to say armor, but it's not about creating armor. It's about putting down the armor and realizing that this doesn't need the protection of the made up armor, because that just keeps us stuck in defense and always seeing everything as an attack. And then it causes us to be afraid, and it causes us to not want to come out of our cave until we know what's going to happen when we come out. And what that means for most of us is we don't have permission to come out of our cave until we're perfect, until we know what they're going to think about us, what they're going to say about us. And then if we can create perfection so that we don't disrupt their judgments of us, then we give ourselves permission to come out of the cave. It's all bullshit. All it does is keep us stuck in we're not good enough to come out yet. And usually the people that we're concerned about aren't the people that we even care about. They're not even the people that we like. We don't like them. We don't want to be like them, but we're afraid of their judgments. Now, we cannot be secure with ourselves unless and until we know ourselves. That's why this journey is so sacred and so scary at the same time. And this is not a light bulb, or a light switch rather, that you just switch it on. Okay, I'm good with myself. This is a continuous journey. So your investment and your expectations must match. But here's the thing. You also can look at the investments that you make and then say, that must mean that I value this. Our life, our circumstances are what we see on the big screen. If we're in a movie theater, our circumstances are what we see on the big screen. And we don't like the circumstances on the big screen. So what most of us try to do is we try to move the circumstances around. We try to see the fears that we have, and then we try to move the fears. We try to see the disruption that we have in certain relationships that we have, or in our bank account, or just anywhere in our life, and we try to move the things. It's like we got this little model, and we're trying to move the furniture, and we're trying to move the different pieces of the puzzle as though they are movable. Our belief system is on the film that is projecting up onto the screen. So in a movie, if somebody goes, if you're in a movie theater and somebody were to ask you, what do you think is on the film? And I know nowadays it's more like digital and all that stuff, but I think you get the analogy. If somebody were to go, you know what I've always wondered? I wonder what's on that film back there. The answer is that. How can that not be on the film? How can the film have something that doesn't get projected onto that? So our belief system on the film is the only thing that could ever get onto the screen. So if we apply this concept right here to the idea of the screen and the film, then you can just take a look at the circumstances and say, what do I invest in? What do I invest my money in? What do I invest my time in? What do I invest my energy in? Oh, that must be what's on the screen. And what I'm specifically talking about is what you value. What you value is going to be what you invest in. So we can just take a look at how we spend our time, how we spend our energy, and how we spend our money, and go, oh, well, that's just what this person must believe in. So there has to be an alignment here of your investment and your expectations. There's nothing wrong with shifting your expectations, because what a lot of people are doing is they're just creating misery. They're creating misery by following a recipe that doesn't have the capacity to create their expectations, but they won't change either one of them. And if you've got expectations and a recipe that don't match, the only outcome is misery. The only outcome is misery. As long as these are expectations, as long as you say things like, oh, I've been at this for such a long time and I'm just not getting what I want, and everybody else is succeeding, and why can't I get this? And when am I going to catch a break? And all these kinds of victim sort of conversations going on in our head. If you catch yourself doing all those things, that means you have expectations. But a recipe always produces what the recipe is designed to produce. Always. Never not. Never not. It never produces something other than what it's capable of producing. Ever. So if your expectations are up here and your recipe's down here, you only have two choices. Raise the recipe, lower the expectations. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them. Because I think you should just commit to your happiness. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what? If I've proven to myself with what I invest in, with what I spend my time on, I've proven to myself that I actually don't want those goals. I actually don't want a multiple six-figure business. I actually don't want a big team with all the responsibilities. I actually don't want that. Great. Then just take it easy on yourself and go with whatever your recipe provides. There's nothing wrong with that.
Now, if you like this video, roll up your sleeves and click right there, because that's the entire first content module of the program.
The thing that we're afraid of. So we're craving and fearing the same thing simultaneously. Now, the fears of visibility are lodged in our body. The goals of visibility are only theoretical in our mind.